Welcome to Facing the Canon. My guests on the program are John and Jade Reynolds, creative communicators and social influencers. Jade, John, welcome to Facing the Canon.
Thanks for having us. We're really excited to be here today.
So great.
I've read your book. It is so good.
Aww.
It really is.
Thanks, J.John.
Now, you two, I've interviewed, I think I've interviewed over 250 people, but you are the first people that I've had on the program. Creative content. What do you call what do you call yourselves?
I guess content creators.
Content creators for social media.
Yes.
I mean, John, what is that?
I basically we make silly, funny family videos, tell stories about our kids sometimes, make people laugh, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started doing it really. I just told a story of our first date,
yes,
where I took Jade to the cinema, and I hadn't researched it properly, and it wasn't accessible, and so I had to carry her. It was a listed building basically, so they had no lift, and I had to carry her up about 30 steps. And I shared some of this story online, and there's lots of funny moments within it, and it just blew up, didn't it?
Yeah,
got
it did.
4 million views or something crazy,
Yeah.
and suddenly we had more followers than we had on any other platform, and we just kept going, really.
Amazing, amazing. And the reach and the conversation that you have with so many people throughout the United Kingdom and around the world. It's astonishing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so interesting to see our followers are just from all over the world, aren't they? We have a lot of American followers as well, don't we?
I think we've got more American followers on Facebook than we've got UK ones.
Yeah.
It's like random how sometimes you connect with people.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Now, where did you grow up, Jade?
I grew up in Swansea in South Wales, so I've got that Welsh accent.
And you grew up where, John?
I grew up in Kent.
In Kent. And what about a Christian faith growing up? What was your...
Yeah, I grew up in a Christian family, and I had my own faith from a very young age. I got baptised when I was 10. And so, from a very young age, I felt, very kind of engaged with my faith, and feel very privileged for that, actually. Like, I think it's really set me up for the challenges I've had in life later on. Having that foundation's been really critical for me thriving in that situation,
And John, for you, what was your...
I was about 17, 18. My parents used to go to church when I was younger, and then we stopped when I was about 4. And I was just really open to it. I remember chatting to my youth worker and being like, I can't shake the feeling that I'm here for something, but I also know I can't really have that if there isn't a God, but I'm just not convinced there is. I'm just not sure about it. And started going to church, and I mean, over time, I guess, it was just absolutely transformative for me and things. The more I prayed, the more I saw just things happen and my life change. And I think I got baptised when I was about 18.
Great. Jade, obviously, you're disabled.
Yes.
What's the background to that disability?
Yeah, it's a very unusual disability. It's very rare. It's called acute transverse myelitis. And it's so rare that they said that I had more chance of winning the lottery than getting it. I was like, oh, great, thank you. I wish I'd been old enough to play it then. But yeah, basically, it was just one day when I was 12 years old. I didn't feel ill at all. I went to a park. I was on a swing, I jumped off the swing, and out of nowhere, I had these shooting pains going down my thighs, out of nowhere. And they were so intense that I actually lay on the wet grass because I just thought, I need to get some relief from this pain. And my dad thought I was messing around. He's like, come on, Jade, get up. And I managed to get up, and I could see a bench across the park. And I just remember thinking, I need to sit down. So with each step, I could feel the power draining out of my legs. It was almost like being a puppet and not being able to coordinate your legs. I made it to the bench, and little did I know that was the last time I ever walked. I couldn't get back up from that bench. My dad had to carry me home, and we had to go straight to hospital. So very suddenly, within seconds. And for months, they didn't know what was wrong with me until they came up with this diagnosis, which it's effectively an autoimmune condition. They believe that my immune system went to attack maybe a normal cold virus in my body, and there was some confusion, and my own immune system attacked my spinal cord, which made it swell, which is where the pain came from. And when it had swollen up, it got damaged basically by rubbing against the vertebrae in my back. So basically it's like I've short-circuited. So the messages going from my brain don't all reach my legs. So I have some feeling in my legs, but minimal and no movement. So it's,
and initially, Jade, when you first went into hospital, one of the nurses didn't really believe you.
No.
And tried to, hey, I'm going to help you stand up.
Yeah, I always remember she said, well, this is really odd that all of a sudden you just can't walk. And I was like, yes, that's why I've come to hospital. It is odd. And I remember she kind of picked me up from under my arms, lifted me, and she thought that my natural reflexes would kick in. And so she just let go, thinking I would just catch myself. And I just fell into, a ball on the floor, basically. And that's when they started to take me seriously and think, okay, something might be actually wrong here. But, it was for that first 24 hours, they thought that it might have been a trapped nerve and that, oh, just wait till you can wiggle your toes and then you'll be back walking again tomorrow. And little did we know that wasn't going to be the case.
No, and you stayed in hospital for several months.
Yeah, I did. I had to live in hospital. I couldn't go home because it wasn't accessible. My bedroom was upstairs. I couldn't even get in the front door because it was too narrow. And so I lived in hospital. And it was only after about 2 months that they said to me, we don't think you're going to recover from this. So we still had a bit of hope up until that point that I might make a recovery. And I always remember them saying to me, you probably will walk again, but you'll need a walking stick. And I thought that was horrifying. As a 12-year-old,
yes.
I just thought, go back to school with a walking stick. I mean, now I'd love to have a walking stick, it's perspective, isn't it? But yeah, so, we thought that I might recover for quite some time, but it just never happened for me. They just said, keep trying to wiggle your toes, and it just never happened for me.
And then they eventually said, you're not going to be able to walk.
No, you're not going to be able to walk. Whatever you can feel now is probably going to be what you've got for the rest of your life. You will have to be a wheelchair user. So, yeah, that was kind of 8 weeks into being in hospital. They gave me that diagnosis.
How did you, as a young, a teenager,
yes,
a Christian,
yes,
how did you process that?
Yeah, it was such a surreal time looking back because there was no kind of cause or effect. Things happen to us in life and, usually we think we do something and then something happens from that. But with this, it was so out the blue and so completely life-changing. And I always remember I would have, we had a great church that we were part of and they were amazing. And I'd have visitors every day and I'd have Christians and non-Christian friends come and visit me. And both sets of people would ask me, why do you think God has let this happen to you? That was the question that both, people with faith and without faith were asking me. And it's really weird to look back now because I'm a 34-year-old woman, but being kind of 12, 13 at the time, I always remember saying, but why not me? And, for me, it was kind of, I saw that bad things happened in the world. I read my Bible and there were plenty of bad things happening in that and God never stop that from happening. He never promised that we wouldn't go through, bad times, but he does promise that he'll always be with us. And I could feel his presence with me in those kind of first few weeks, particularly in hospital. I didn't feel alone in it. And it gave me a kind of confidence, even though it was still such a hard time and still a time that I was still trying to grapple with what does this mean for my life. I knew that I wouldn't have to go through it alone. And I think that was really comforting for me at that time.
But then you had to start adjusting.
Yes.
And that took a bit of time.
Yes, I had to learn to sit up again. So at first, when you've got a spinal cord injury, if you can't feel properly, your centre of balance goes. So I would sit up and I'd just fall straight over again. So I had to learn, because my centre of balance is now higher up than yours would be. So I had to learn to sit again. I had to learn to dress myself again. I had to learn to get in and out of a wheelchair, how to move legs that are heavy and don't want to do what you want them to do. So it's kind of becoming a baby again almost and having to reel in the most basic, life skills.
And then you then discovered you had an issue with your back that needed major surgery.
Yeah, so because my spinal cord injury isn't even throughout my spinal cord, I'm actually stronger on my right side than my left. And so what happens is if you're stronger on one side, your spine will go to the stronger side. It'll get pulled over. So my weaker side wouldn't be able to keep it straight. It would just be pulled. So I got scoliosis, basically. And so at the age of 17, I had to have major surgery to get that corrected and straightened up.
And that was 2 major operations in a week.
Yeah, it was.
Under a lot of anaesthetic.
Yeah, they had to go in, had to remove a rib, collapse my lung, go through the front of me to get to the back of me, which still doesn't make sense to me even now. And then a week later, they had to go in through the back where they put basically from my neck to my pelvis, I mean, titanium rods, screws. There's a lot of metal work in there. I definitely.
Bionic woman.
Well, the alarms go off at the airport for me, you know. It's So yeah, all that happened at 17 then. So that was another thing that I had to adjust to as well.
You end up going to London School of Theology. John, you end up going to London School of Theology, but you're a year ahead, aren't you?
Yeah, I was a year above Jade.
And so what took you to LST?
Yeah, I'd had this experience with Jesus that had changed my life and really impacted me, but I knew next to nothing. I became a youth intern for a couple of years after becoming a Christian before I went to uni. And I remember one of the young people saying to me at one point, doesn't it say in the Bible that Jesus came for the sick, not the healthy? And I had no idea. Like, I was his leader and I was like, yeah, I think so. Like I didn't have a clue.
It sounds right.
Very good. Yeah, well done you. Excellent. I just didn't know. And so I really wanted to. I remember realizing that David and Goliath was in the Bible after being a Christian, again, probably a couple of years, because there was a giant in it. I was like, in my head, it was like the troll that lived under the bridge or like Jack and the Beanstalk. Yes. It was like that kind of like imagery. And so I wanted to go to London School of Theology to really put some flesh on the bones of like my experience and actually know what I was talking about and know why I believed what I believed rather than just have this moment with God, I guess.
Yes. What took you, Jade, to London School of Theology?
Yeah, I'd always done really well in RE in school. And I got to a point where I was trying to decide whether I'd go down the art route or whether I'd go down the RE route. And I really couldn't make up my mind about it. And then I did my A-levels and I got 100% in my A-level exam. And I remember thinking, okay, that is really good.
What do you mean,
and I'm not used to being...
What do you mean really good? I think if you said I got 71, I would have said that was really good.
But I don't see myself as academic as well. So I thought, wow, okay, God, obviously I must have some kind of, gift here. And then I heard Jamie, my friend, who was going to London School of Theology, and I'd also been looking at it. And I thought, well, I'll go and check it out. I'll just look at my options. It's a lot harder when you've got a disability to be able to plan ahead, and you can't just assume that you can go places and do things because that's not how the world is built. So I just thought, well, I'll just kind of push on that door and see what happens. And I remember going there and they'd said to me, oh, wow, it's so cool that you've come here this year because we've just got a brand new disabled shower room, toilet and bedroom, and no one's used them before. And I thought, okay, that's quite a big sign, I think, with the timing. And so it kind of just all fell into place, really. And I thought, do you know what, this is quite a scary thing for me because when I was first paralysed, they said to me, the prognosis wasn't great. Would I live with my parents all my life? What does life with a disability look like? I didn't know anyone else who had a disability. And so I thought I might just live with my parents, not really achieve much and just survive. That was kind of the kind of prognosis. And then it was almost like God being like, no, I've got plans for you and they're bigger than that. And that was scary to me. But I thought, okay, God, I'm going to trust you. You know what you're doing. And so, yeah, I just went for it. And I thought, I'm going to London from Swansea, which is 4 hours away. Away from my parents. I haven't got a carer as such, although I made amazing friends there who basically did care for me. I had an army of people there to help me. And it was like, yeah, I'm just gonna take that step of faith and, yeah, it paid off. It was amazing. I had the best 3 years of my life there.
Well, probably getting married.
Yeah. Some other great stories after that. No, so obviously you overlapped at college, you were friends, but when was it, John, that you kind of felt, hey, there's a little bit of chemistry here? When did that happen?
I thought we were friends while we were there. I was in a relationship with somebody else, but I thought I was friends with Jade. I thought like she liked me. She thought I was annoying, didn't you?
Yes. I thought he was very annoying, a bit attention seeking. I just thought, I don't know.
Yes.
And has that changed?
No.
No.
But I think one of my friends actually said, like, do you know Jade? And things and he didn't know Jade, and he was like, would you like put in a good word for me? Like, would she want to go on a date? And I remember saying, like, passing that on to you, and you'd be like, oh, I'm sure he's lovely, but I just don't really know him.
Yeah.
And I think, like, it just something popped into my head where I was like, look, that's such a good point. Like, Jade is really fun, like, really attractive. Like, I might just see if she's interested in me. And so I waited, obviously, till she'd rejected, like, my friend. I didn't.
So because of someone else's request, it gave you the idea.
I think because I'd always been in a relationship when I'd known you before, like, I just wasn't thinking on those terms almost. But then when my friend had asked, I was single by then, and I was like, actually, Jade is like really lovely, and we've always had good banter, and I don't think she thinks I'm annoying in the slightest. And so she'll probably she might be interested. And it was
so you asked her.
Yeah, we started chatting, didn't we, on like Facebook? Because she was still at uni and I finished.
Yeah.
But I had a mortifying moment where Facebook at the time, I didn't realise this. Like, we've been chatting and been a bit friendly and been a bit flirty via messages and things. I think she's sort of interested. And so I liked a couple of her photos, but this was during the time where on your news feed, any mutual friends would also be notified. So I liked 30.
Yeah, a lot.
Photos.
A lot.
Yeah, and it just came up for all our mutual friends. John Reynolds likes Jade Greasley's photo. John Reynolds likes Jade Greasley's photo. Boom, 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 boom on the timeline.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think one of your friends like messaged me or
Yes.
put on the
Publicly
page,
called
like,
you
why
out,
are you
didn't
liking
she?
all of Jay's photos? I was like, I think they probably realised that we're getting close.
So you did start dating,
Yes.
and when did you get married?
In 2015. So coming up to our 10-year anniversary this
September.
year. Yeah.
And how was that?
It was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a lovely day. It was in September, but it was a really hot, sunny day. And we got married in Swansea, so we were on the beach. So when people see the photos, they go, oh, did you go abroad? We're like, no, that's Wales.
But I proposed in Dubai. We went on holiday to see my auntie and uncle. And the best thing about Jade's wheelchair is that it's got a compartment for her tools. So I could hide the ring in the compartment for her tools. So she was basically like her own ring mule, basically.
I was carrying my own ring, I had no idea.
And so I was able to like hide it in there, which meant, because it's kind of where she sits, so I was able to get down on one knee. I basically pretended I needed to fix her chair.
Which was very, very strange, because John is not very good at anything to do with DIY. So I was quite worried that you wanted to tamper with my wheelchair.
I basically had this plan to, like, in front of all these fountains, to like take her there and like propose to her. And then I basically had to like fabricate there was something wrong with her chair. And I was like, I'll just fix your brake, and then managed to get the ring out and things. So that was definitely an advantage, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a shock.
Yeah.
It was a shock.
But of course you said yes.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Yes.
And then you have 2 children.
Yes, we do.
And when were your children born?
So we have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, a boy and a girl.
It's interesting, isn't it, that people sometimes always wonder about people who have a disability. You know, is it possible to have a child?
Yes.
Isn't it? They will have all these misconceptions and misunderstandings. Did you ever think any of those yourself?
I think originally maybe I did, because you don't really see a lot of people with disabilities kind of, having children, not anyone that I knew anyway. And there wasn't very many public figures, that I could follow. And so, I really didn't think that much of it. And then I had to go to this spinal rehabilitation ward. And they basically were like, right, we want to talk about, fertility and having babies and, all telling me all this information. And I remember just thinking, whoa, I'm 14, I don't need to know this. This is too much information. I mean, but it was good to know on one hand, because I didn't know, I guess, things affect people differently. And I know men with spinal cord injuries, their fertility can be affected. So it's not a given, but yeah, it was interesting to realise that actually people with disabilities are having children and they're doing a really good job at it. And so that's what I love about social media now, actually, is I follow a lot of other people from all over the world who've got a similar disability to me, and they're, you know, they're married, they've got kids, and, you know, I think that's the strength of social media is, you know,
the sharing of experience.
Yeah, that community, and
Yes.
actually knowing that people are doing these things, and it gives me then the confidence to go, well, if they're doing it, I can do it. And that's what I hope we're able to do for other people as well. You know, when people see our relationship and our life, they can go, well, if they can do it, why can't I?
And some of the loveliest messages we receive are from like teenagers who have become paralysed or maybe been born paralysed, and they'll reach out and say, I know I might never get married, but seeing you guys means I know I might. It's possible.
Yes.
And it's always really,
it gives
really lovely.
them hope, and hope is so important, isn't it?
Definitely.
And then, of course, adjusting to life with children, that takes a little bit of adjustment.
Yeah, it does.
You know, obviously you have certain responsibilities, but you obviously, John, have also had to adapt and be more flexible. How's that been for you?
Yeah, it's been good. A few years ago, being able to go self-employed has really, really helped that. Being able to be at home and help when I'm needed and things, and be quite hands-on with the kids. Like, I think it's been a massive blessing, to be honest, to be able to do social media and do those videos means that I can work from home, and I feel like I can balance both of them quite nicely, which is, been really, really good.
I mean, the thing about it, you finished London School of Theology, you were a youth leader in a couple of different churches, you've both worked in churches. And it's interesting that with your social media, although you don't say this, but having observed you, in some ways you are pastors, although you won't call yourselves that, but it's like you're pastors to this incredible community of people around the world, sharing wisdom, sharing insight, sharing life. So in some ways, you've got a much bigger church than the churches you used to work with. I mean, we're all very British, aren't we? So we all like downplay what we do. You know, your social media influencers, but actually, you are influencing them with values and principles that are godly and Christian. I mean, that must encourage you.
It is.
Yeah, so much.
It really does, doesn't it? And I think you love like evangelizing, don't you? And I think what's been so great is we do these lives where basically you go live on a video and people can tune into that live from all over the world, and you can get hundreds of people on there. And nearly always faith comes up when people ask you, well, what was your job before social media? And John can say, oh, I was like a youth pastor. Oh, wow, okay, so you worked for the church. And then all of a sudden it kind of snowballs.
So why are you a Christian? And like, well, tell me a bit about that. And how did you become it? Have you always been a Christian? And it's been really good for conversations. We've had, I think, about 5 or 6 people go to churches like in the last year.
Alpha courses.
We've had people sign up for Alpha because they'd be like, what would you recommend? Like, I've always seen myself as spiritual and I've always been open to Christianity, but I just don't know where to start. And it's been really nice being like, great, well, this is a great place to start. Into Alpha and things like that. So it's been really cool.
We had even a family come to our church that we go to, didn't we? And they said that we've never been to church before. We were always too intimidated. And they felt, because they knew us already through social media, they felt a little bit more comfortable with coming in. And we could say, well, this is what it looks like. And it has been amazing to kind of be that presence on social media, because there's a lot of amazing Christian content creators and they have a huge Christian following, and like what they're doing is amazing. But what I love about what we get to do is we kind of get to bridge the gap a little bit, because we have a lot of people who aren't at all religious following us.
Because people followed us just for funny stories, so it wasn't really about that.
But we get to normalise our faith in that. We talk about church and prayer, and you know, all these kind of topics come up, and it's in hopefully a very natural way.
I think so.
I think people who wouldn't normally engage with Christian content actually engage with us, which has been really exciting.
And the thing is, of course, there's the flock. Then there's the fringe, and there's beyond the fringe. And what you're doing is engaging with a bit of the flock, a bit of the fringe, and a bit of beyond the fringe, which is actually really good.
It's exciting.
The title of your book, Able to Laugh. Great title. And obviously you two do laugh.
Yeah.
And laughing is very therapeutic.
Yes.
So, well, I'm intrigued that you came up with that title. Well, when you were thinking about a title for your book, how did you come up with that title?
I think it was chatting a lot with the editors and publishers,
It was,
wasn't it?
because at first we had a few ideas, but it sounded a bit of a struggle. We had like pushing through, and we're like, oh no, that sounds a bit hard work. And we thought, no, we want something that kind of encapsulates kind of the freedom we have to laugh because of our faith and how that impacts our lives. And it was talking with our editor at the time, and we threw a few things back and forth between us, and we ended up with that, didn't we? And we just loved it straight away. We were like, that is the title.
Because it's a mixture, it's autobiographical, obviously, in sharing your life and our lives, but because there is a lot of funny stories in there, we don't want it to sort of, it's not all doom and gloom. That's not our reality or our experience. I guess it kind of covers faith, humour, family life, all sorts really. And you've got a lot of wisdom, I think, for people as well. We've been able to say, like, if you've gone through a lot of stuff, like, it might not be disability, it could be bereavement or divorce, you could have lost somebody you love, could be being bullied, redundant, like there are so many things. We all struggle, the subtitle being Finding Joy, though the struggle is real. Like, we all struggle, but we're all looking for this joy. And I think it's probably one of the reasons I fell in love with you, really, is you were one of the most joyful people I knew, and like so great to be around, that I think it kind of personified your journey a bit, and has done ever since. And so it's nice to be able to share a bit of that.
Absolutely. Jade, how do you see the next season of life for you and John and the family?
I don't have any idea. Even with this social media thing that we're doing now, if you'd said to us a few years ago, you're going to be really big on social media and you're going to be doing this and that, I wouldn't have believed you. And I think that's kind of been a theme in my life, where God's always had these huge plans, and kind of we wouldn't have been able to have comprehended really what his plans were for us. And so we're just here going, okay, God, what are you doing now? How can we be involved in that? And just taking it each day at a time, really, and seeing what he's going to do and what we can do with him.
Well, you're a great couple. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's been lovely, John, Jade, having you on Facing the Canon. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, J.John.
Yeah, thanks, J.John.
I really hope you've enjoyed that. I've really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the book very much, and I hope it's inspired you in your own journey and whatever limitations you might be experiencing. The title again, Able to Laugh. Thank you for joining us on Facing the Canon. Please join us again.